I'd like, especially the YN, to get a little bit better, or maybe they're great at it, but I think we always can get a little bit better at spotting a problem coin. And I want to make sure that next month we'll talk about why each one of these is a problem coin. We won't have time tonight, okay? But I just thought it'd be fun for you to look at them and figure out what the problem is. So let's go to the slides, Jason. It is our 5/19/22 meeting. And that's our website graphic and a couple of images from the photo contest from a couple of years ago. Let's move on. You know, Ricky gave this really great presentation. Ricky, I applaud you. I thought it was a cool presentation.
Thank you.
About the Cook's coins, and they were from the collectibles by the Franklin Mint, right? And we kind of joked a little bit, maybe not, about the things that people collected from the Franklin Mint. And I don't want to give any impression that there's anything wrong with collecting from the Franklin Mint. It's all personal preference. You know, I collect half cents. You might think they're hideous, okay? But I did find in my basement my word collection, okay? When I was in college, I used to tear out pieces of paper with interesting words on it and circle them, and I had a collection of them. So if you're talking about worthless, meaningless collections of things, I've got to have one of the most meaningless collections, but there's something about it that I can't believe I've kept it all these years. So anyways, if you like collecting it, collect it. I had a round rock collection at one time, okay? Why? I always wondered how nature would create a round rock, and how round could it be? So have fun collecting things, and have fun collecting coins, okay? Next. So in light of that, Ricky, did you come across this one? So I thought, you know, got to give them credit at Cook's Island because they come up with some really cool stuff. Now, I don't know if this is from a movie or what, but I saw that, I'm like, man, U.S. Mint's not going to create something like that. So if you're into cool, odd kinds of coins and numismatics or whatever you want to call these things, look at that. They take some guts to go put something like that out there and find a collector out there to buy it. So I thought that was cool. Anyways, you never know what you're going to find, okay? Next. And you never know what you're going to find in that little collection of coins out there. So these are problem coins. And what I'm looking for you guys to do is say, hey, I think coin number C is the one that really doesn't have a problem. Or I think it's B that doesn't have a problem. So give it your best. Go look in there, try to figure out which one is the coin that doesn't really have a problem. We'll talk about this next week or next month. And then this picture just reminded me that it's tied to this right here. Okay, because even though Julian, my son, is very much into things like track and girls, you know, this high school prom type stuff, and you're not seeing him very much. I think January was his last meeting. He did write a little article for Aeroscope magazine for the YN column. Okay, so he's got his stuff still going into print, and this is Julian. So what I do is I have him go to the coin show and I give him a coin or two and say, got to get at least $20 and you get to keep the whole thing. So there's an incentive. If you get 30, 40, 50, you keep all of it, right? So do your best. So he goes around to tables and tries to sell it. And James Sago, he bought the coins. I don't know if he was in on the deal, okay? And this is his friend Luke, okay? And that is basically father-son, okay? I like doing coins because of the father-son nature. So go to the next. And one of the things that Julian wrote in his essay was, my dad says that he likes coin collecting because it was a fun thing for him to do with his dad. He thinks it is a fun thing to do with me too. Of course, he spells two with a T-O, right? Yeah. He calls it father-son time and money that is very well spent. That makes sense to me. Anyways, I just want to let you know, like, he's not here tonight, but I'm glad he still does stuff like this, okay? Next. There's that collection of half cents I've been working on. So I'm going to go to the next one. Call it quits, because I got that at 1826. And I think maybe I'll bring the whole collection in sometime and talk about it. And what I really like about early coppers is every one of them has a slightly different die or so. I mean, you go to the modern coins, and 2018 looks like 2019, looks like 2020. You get them in proof 70, they all look perfect. They all look the same. You know, like the only thing different is the date, okay? Every one of these things looks different. The color's different. There's little hash marks on things. There's something interesting about every one of these things, okay? So to me, it's really fascinating, this collection. So go to the next. This is one of the harder ones in the collection. So in the collection, it's everything from a very fine 30 to the next one, to an MS-65 coin. So I got a pretty wide range of conditions of coins in that. Next. And this is the one that's on my want list. It's got a O inside of a 0. So it's sort of a very odd variety that I'd like to pick up. I don't have to have it, but it'd be kind of cool to have the rest. Next. And if you're trying to build up your collection, participating in a raffle is a great way to do it. Did I get all my tickets? Did you give me the last batch, Tom?
Does Jimmy have all his tickets?
Yes.
Okay.
Does he have all?
Oh, sorry.
No, you only one more batch. So, keep your tickets, okay, because this is going to be our quarterly drawing, okay? And whatever tickets you have from tonight, bring back in the June drawing, and you could win either, your choice. You can either win the 1881 MS-65 Morgan, or you can win this really cool coin from 1790, which I'm not going to tell you much about because I want it. This is really cool. So you get to choose which one you want, but your ticket has to be present. You don't have to be present. Your ticket has to be present in order to win. If you're not going to be here, give your ticket to somebody who will be. Thank you. So good luck to everybody tonight and next month. Next. Tonight, we're going to have a basic membership drawing. And if you are a member, now, we kind of goofed this up because I know you all were given this with the red dash on it, right? That's going to be for the membership, right? But that should only be for people who are members.
I think
Everybody got one? Okay.
I think their word for it.
All right. Okay. So we're going to do a membership drawing tonight, and you can pick one or the other, and then we're going to do a second membership drawing, and that person gets whatever remains. So these are the two coins. We're going to be 1857 Flying Eagle, and it's 1892 Columbia 50 centavos. So these are what we're going to be raffling off with the ticket that has the little orange dot on it. Okay, it's line, whatever you want to call it. Next. Ricky gave a presentation here, and this coin here is being researched. Who's doing that? Are you here? Get somebody researching that. Okay. If a YN would like to talk about this coin or this Ike dollar or one of these other coins, go quickly to the next. Ricky won this by giving a full-length presentation. Next. This is being researched, and somebody's going to give a presentation on this. Go to the next. If you'd like to tell us something about Ike dollars, you get to keep this coin, okay, for YN. Next. If you'd like to tell us something about this bicentennial medal, you get to keep it if you do some research and give a presentation. Next. And if you'd like to give a presentation on this Panama Canal medal, you get to keep it if you give us a nice presentation about the Panama Canal and why they made this medal. And finally, there's some cool coins that I think are cool because it says faith, self-determination, cooperative economics, creativity. I mean, I just love the notions of this coin, what they're trying to bring to the populace in terms of the ideas. So I'd like to know more as to why. You know, who created it? Where are these and when and why? What's the background behind this? So if somebody wants to research that, give us a presentation, keep the whole set. And next is the different varieties of types, Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, but also the satin finish to tell us a little bit about these. So any YN who wants to do a research project, these are available to you. They were all donated to the club during our annual coin show. And so they were all donated by people saying this is for YN, okay? Not for the adults, but for the YN. Next. We've got a great presentation tonight, and Frank is going to take the stage. Any questions or announcements one last time before we start our major presentation? All right, great. Frank, you ready?
There's a coin show in Albany at the end of the month.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's good mention.
No, it hasn't. And then one is I keep wanting to call it the Clackamas show, but it's not Clackamas. It's Wilson.
Okay. Sorry about that. Let's continue.
So, the 1855 dies with there's major type variety. There's the slanted fives and the upright fives. But the major types are easy to distinguish because it's so visible. Next slide. But all of the varieties are not easily determined. Just like the other ones I just showed you. In this presentation, I'm going to show you the method on how to determine almost all of the 330 mature head large scent die varieties. But I'm going to use this 1850 large scent as my example coin. Next slide. And for the mature heads, this table here represents all the different varieties for the different years from 1843 to 1857. There's 330 different die varieties. In the 1850 year, there's 25 different varieties. And each one variety has what's called a Newcomb number. They were assigned to the large scents from 1816 to 1857. And it would be like N1, N2, and 3. Each year has an N1 and N2. Next slide. Now, this is how you go about determining what variety it is. There's 6 date reference numbers used to locate the positions where the numbers and the dates are individually punched into the die. You may not be able to see it, but those vertical lines on over the 1 and the 8, they have numbers assigned to them, 1 through 9. And each one is a different position relating to either the bust or the curl. The first DRN is the vertical location of the number 1 to the bust. And the second DRN is the vertical location of the 8 to the point of the curl. And the third DRN is the horizontal location of the number 1 to the bust. Next slide. And for estimating horizontal measurements, it can be challenging because those are slightly different in some cases because of the strike or die wear or die polishing. For the 1843 to 49 coins, of course you use the 4. For the 1850 to 1857, you use the 5's relationship to the curl. Next slide. And finally, the last two DRNs is the vertical location to the left edge of the bottom of the 1 to the dentals, and the 6th one is the horizontal location of the bottom of the 1 to the dental. Next slide. Now, here's the 25 varieties of the 1850 sets showing all 6 DRN numbers. And you'll probably understand this better as we go along. But the Newcomb numbers are like variety number 2, 1, 3, 4, and their associated DRN numbers. A couple of them have multiple numbers because they have identical DRN numbers, but they are different varieties because there's probably used different reverse dies. Next slide. And like I said before, I'm going to show you how to identify it using this 1850 example. I could use any of the years from 1843 to 1857, but I decided to choose this one because the date stood out pretty clearly for me to show you and demonstrate how to do it. Next slide. Okay, for the DRN1, it's what you find here is that the peak of the bust aligns slightly to the right of the end of the tip of the 1, which is position number 3. I put a red line on number 3 on the graphic to the left, but on the right I showed it where it falls on the coin itself. And if you lock in the first 2 DRN numbers, you're honing in on the variety consideration. Next slide. So what that tells you is I plugged in that 3 number and I made a bold 3 and underlined it, and I crossed out all the other DRNs on the first column, such as the 1s and the 4s and the 5s, because I singled them out. It's not, it's not that variety. So the DRN1 eliminated 19 varieties. Next slide. Now we go to the second DRN, which is usually the easiest one to decipher. And in this case, I was a little bit unsure whether or not the curl lined up with the inner part of the 8, whether it was a 4 or a 5. So it doesn't make any difference that you're not really sure. You just assume both positions. And you go to the next slide. And you see I highlighted with in the second column the red 4s and 5s. And but this didn't eliminate any additional varieties. So I still have 6 possibilities. Next slide. And then for DRN number 3, this is a little bit hard to tell because the 1 is so close to the bust. So what I did was and also the photo's not that clear, but it's either a 2 or a 3. It doesn't really matter. Again, it can be either one. You can assume either one. It's either heavily touching the bust or just touching the bust. And go to the next slide. And what that does is that eliminates variety number 5. because that was a DRN4. Next slide. For the DRN4, it's obvious that it's position number 7 because it touches the curl on the right side and it doesn't touch the curl on the left side. But this is a difficult one to attribute, usually due to die wear or corrosion. Next slide. So again, it doesn't eliminate any varieties because all 4 of them are number 7s. Next slide. Now DRN number 5. It could be a 6 or 7. 6 is to the left edge of the dental. 7 is over the edge of the dental. But what's curious here, it's most important that it's not a 4. I highlighted the 4 in the green. If you can make out the green, that's in between the dentals. Go to the next slide. When you see that, the number 4 eliminates 4 of the other varieties, leaving me with only 1 possible variety left. Next slide. And this is the last position number. This is probably the most difficult one to determine, only because I think it's hard to tell whether it's a 5, 6, 7, or 8. I went with the 6 and 7, but you'll see on the next slide, it really doesn't make much difference, which I assume the 6 and 7, but it does make much difference. Next slide. And that confirms that it's a variety number 3 for this coin. Next slide. But there are other things too that determine varieties. On the 1850 coin, the normal location of the 0 is shown on the left, and for varieties 11, 26, and 27, the 0 is close to the dentals. So there are other indications which give you clues to the variety. Next slide. And other things that give clues to the variety is the early stage and late stage die defects. Initial die defects fade away as more coins are struck. Later die defects, such as die cracks and rim cut breaks, appear in the late stages of the coin process. The illustration on the bottom left shows what a die crack looks like. That occurs later in the stage, and that way you can identify your variety. Or on the right side, you have a rim cut break, which you could identify your variety. Next slide. Now, the early stage die defects cannot generally be seen with the naked eye or looking at photographs. They usually need a 10 magnifying glass or better to really see them. The next 4 slides show examples of early stage die defects for the varieties 2, 5, 4, and 22 for the 1850 coin. Next slide. This is taken of one of the coins I own. It's variety 2, and how you know that is because of the die defect, where there's a whole bunch of lines on the die in the general area of the 1 and the cent on the reverse of the coin. Next slide. On variety number 5, there's the die defect is a strong but dull line down from the bottom of the inner hair bun. On the left, it shows it graphically, and on the right, it shows it on the actual coin. Next slide. On the variety 4 of the 1850, there's a die defect where there's a line going through the upper parts of the E and T in the sets. Next slide. And the final one for early die defects is hard to see. You probably can't see it here on this photo either, but there's a rectangular lump on the breast over between the 1 and the 8 on the breast there, and that would designate it as a variety 22. Next slide. Now that you know what variety coin you have, what's important to know is its rarity. And this N3 that I was using as an example is a rarity 1, which is common, 1,251 known to 2,000. But the Sheldon scale for the 25 varieties of the N50, they range between a rarity 1 to a rarity 5 plus, which is roughly only 31 to 40 known. Next slide. And if you know the rarity, the rarer the coin is, higher the number, the more valuable the coin is. So if you buy a coin from a dealer that doesn't know what variety it is, and you research it and you find out, well, it wasn't a variety 1, you bought it for $35, and it's a variety 5, and it might be a very fine coin, it could be worth $1,000. So that's why you'd want to be able to tell what variety coin you have. I don't collect varieties in large sense. I just like to try to determine their varieties. I have a few. It says here I have 27 mature head scents in my collection for those few years. 3 are dated 1850. Actually, I won another one in a auction this week, and so now I have a total of 28 of these mature head large scents. This is my 1850 N1 very fine 30. It's a rarity 2 plus. Next slide. And my 1850 N2 extra fine 45. It's a rarity 1, and my N3 variety very fine 30, rarity 1. Next slide. And this is what I use as a reference in determining the die varieties of these large scents. It's the die variety of the United States large scents 1840 to 1857. It's written by John Gilman. This is his 2021 edition. He wrote his first edition in 1987. This book just came out recently. It covers the petite head large scents from 1840 to 1843, and the mature head large scents, which were minted from 1843 to 1857. Now, what's interesting about this book is anybody can view this whole book on the internet at eacs.org. It includes all the doesn't include the photos, but Gilman posted it on the EAC website. It's the early American copper coins. It's under you go to where it says members, and you click on that, but you don't have to be a member. Even though you click on the member, you don't have to be a member to view the book. If you are a member, you can download a PDF copy of it for free, or if you purchase it, then you get it with you can get it with all the photos of it has in the back, and not all the coins, but the majority of the ones that have the cuts and the die breaks and things like that. And I guess that's a short presentation. Any questions?
Any questions?
Yeah.
How long does it take you to determine, like, which variety it is?
That's a good question. Sometimes it takes me a half hour. On an older coin, a worn coin, it might take me several hours to try to figure it out. And occasionally I can't even figure it out, because it might be too corroded. But, I collect all different conditions, from good to extra fine, or maybe even better than that. But on the goods and the very goods, they're a little bit hard to determine.
Any other questions? I've got a 1986 version of the Grolman book. Thought I'd give you that as a gift. And as everybody knows, when you present a full-length presentation, you get to go pick yourself out a coin. So go to the back of the room and find a nice coin for your collection. I don't know if we have any large ones. And going along with the tradition of giving away books, I do have some red books here. These are the older ones. This one is from 1992. These are soft copies, but never used. Here's one from 2002 and one from 1997. So if anybody would like a red book, they're all pretty much unused. Feel free to come on up and grab one. They're not new, but if for some reason you have a little collection of these things going on, they're donated to the club, and you're welcome to have one. So I'll leave them over here on the side with some other books. These are all books that are here for people
I have
who want to start a book about time.
Oh yeah, you were. Oh yeah, I was told that maybe you weren't, so I should bring out another dress. But this will work.
And I have one more book that's available if you want it. This book is on the United States trade dollar. Anybody a big trade dollar historian? Like to learn more about trade dollars? Enjoy. So try to learn things from the books. Did everybody get a chance to look at the problem coins?
Oh no, no, it's I don't. It's not going to be that long. Why? How much time do you think should I limit it?
Like 5 to 10?
Okay, yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, that's probably about right. He's got like 5 slides, right?
Yeah.
So Ricky's going to give a presentation. As a YN, you can always look in our YN box and find a coin. You get to keep the coin if you give a short presentation. This is not a full-length presentation, but anything from 3 to 5 slides is typically what kids do. And then they get to keep the coin, and it's a great way to get a free coin to build up your collection. Ricky?
I am doing my presentation on the Japan 50-cent coin from 1898. I have it here. If we can pass it around, I would just like to get it back by the end of the meeting. Okay. Next slide. This is designed. This one is different. So the text is different, but yeah, the obverse. There's a dragon, and then around the text. This says something else. Mine says this. If you can make it out, mine is the 31st year of Meiji. So this is 1898. It has on the reverse. There's the chrysanthemum, the royal seal of the Emperor of Japan, and right here it says 50 cent, and it says 50 cent here too. Next slide, please. This one, the cardboard flip is wrong. I think it says 50%. It's not 50%. It's 80%. That's about $7.50 yesterday, and So it's about the same size as a $50. So yeah, it's understandably it's a little less silver than a 90%. It weighs 12.5 grams, and about 25 million of these were struck in 1898. In the pre-Meiji period, there was the Tokugawa shogunate. They made these big cool things. They're like discs. They're pretty cool, I think. Does anybody here have one of these? No. Well, they're gold. They're pretty cool. At this time, the emperor kind of sits in his palace and does absolutely nothing, and basically the military runs the government. And this is around for a long time. It's from 1603, if anybody knows, I think it's 1603. And, yeah, they take over Japan. The emperor is, the Tokugawa shogunate takes over Japan. The emperor is left with little power. He sits around. Japan is closed. It's closed. Nobody's allowed to go in. Or, I mean, yeah, except for the Dutch. They're allowed to go to Fukushima. No, they're allowed to go to Hiroshima. They're allowed to go to the port. It's open for just a little bit of trade, but rest of Japan is closed. Nobody is allowed to leave, and nobody's allowed to go in. And and this is the status quo remains until the Perry expedition, and then Japan is opened up. And let's just say this causes a bit of instability for the shogun because, you know, they've been sitting around for a few hundred years not doing anything, and then the United States shows up with some really big boats. Next slide. Meiji Restoration, like I said, instability in Japan weakens the shogunate. In 1868, there's a coup orchestrated by many it's really headed by mostly of the lower nobility, of the samurai class. It's headed by the revolt, and they win. The Tokugawa shogunate is dissolved, and Emperor Meiji. This is the Meiji Restoration. Meiji becomes emperor, and he gets, for the first time in centuries, the emperor has absolute control over the country, and there would be a great period of modernization in Japan following this event. Next slide, please. Yes, like I said, industrialization, westernization, Emperor Meiji's reign. This is he would start in 1868, and he would, until and his reign would stretch until 1912. So 1898, this is safely within, I mean, it's kind of the tail end, but it's safely within the Meiji period. Something coin related that happens during this period, right at the beginning, is the monetary system is restructured in a Western format. In 1871, they get just like the previous coin I had, the Rio, the Koban system is gotten rid of, and they create a new decimalized system of yen and sen. So yeah, this is a sen. This is 50 cents, and that replaces the system. The first coins are made with some machines that are imported from British Hong Kong that they use to strike the first ones. And next slide. And then if we fast forward a bit to the 1880s, 1890s, this series here that there's a bunch of all the denominations, but they all have a similar design, kind of with the dragon, and this one's a bit different. I like this one. I like just right after we were talking about trade dollars. Here we have a Japanese trade dollar, and they were. This was kind of a big deal in Japan. These new standardized trade dollars, because before what had been used a lot in Asia were the Mexican pesos. The Mexican pesos were used a lot in Asia, so this was kind of a big. This was a big change, and so this new series, along with that coin, and this series, the trade dollar, was really a big deal. That's kind of my short presentation about Japan in the 19th century. Does anybody have any questions?
I think we're short on time, so we're going to skip the questions tonight.
Okay, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Ricky. Let's start.
Okay,
Let's start with a membership drawing.
We gotta put in two more people.
Two more people.
So Daniel and Tate are here. So if we could put a ticket in for them.
Tickets. Okay. Does everybody locate their ticket where there's an orange line on it? We're going to do a membership drawing. You want to go to that picture from my presentation to tell people what they're going to win?
All right.
maybe like the third or fourth slide or so. On the right. Yep. Going up. Up, 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 up.
Up, up. Not that one, this one.
Yeah, there it is. So you can pick, this is mine. So I'm going to do the drawing. And how did you record those two? Who's holding them?
I don't know.
Tom? Who's holding the two for the people on the phone? We added two more to this, right? Are you holding them?
I got it.
You got them? Okay. All right, here we go.
Okay, so you know who they're for, though.
I don't know the numbers.
Okay, so.
I guess if no one claims them, they must belong to those.
Just randomly select one as the first one,
All right.
the lower.
Well,
The winner is 5230243. 0243. 0243 are the last four numbers. How can it not be? Somebody's got to be here with us.
no, it's got to be one of these two.
Is it?
Yeah, 2, 3. Yeah, it's been the extra.
It would have been one of those last two we put in.
So,
Okay.
who is the second person, or the very last?
There's the very last person on your list to tell you about it.
Daniel.
He's the winner.
All right.
Which coin you want, Daniel? Is he able to communicate?
Daniel, you won a coin. Let us know which one you want. The Flying Eagle or the...
Close
I
the
might-
window if you want to look.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I don't know where that one came from.
It's 50 cents and, 50 cent tacos and $200.
We want to move on, so
Yeah, let's...
let's move on. The next winner is 0230.
That is,
Ricky, so you're going to get whatever that person doesn't select. What did they select?
He hasn't texted me yet. So let's hold on just a minute, Ricky, and we'll...
Ricky, you're going to have to hold on. You get second choice. Okay, these tickets have no value anymore, okay? So if you got a ticket with a little red slice, these are going to go into the recycling bin.
Okay, Daniel wants the Columbia.
Danny goes to Columbia. Ricky, you get the Flying Eagle, okay?
All right.
You want to distribute
I
those?
think we're gonna sign off of YouTube now. So
All right.
so
Now,
long,
can
everybody on YouTube.
Tom or somebody indicate how many regular raffle drawings we're going to be able to do tonight?